What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Gotham Season 3, Episode 19, All Will Be Judged. So, returning to Gotham to finish it up, hopefully by the end of the day, so that way I'll be mostly free to completely focus on Defenders when it comes out tomorrow. But yeah, this is a very good episode in my opinion. There are a lot of good things about it, there's some bad things about it, but the good things outweigh the bad in this episode. So many good moments that when they happen, I'm just like, I'm either giggling because I'm so like, that was awesome, or moments that I'm just like, that's a great moment. That's a good scene to deal with. So let's talk about it. First of all, let's talk about the side quest on this one, and that is Penguin and Riddler. They're both trapped by the court, and they're both in cages. So many good dialogue scenes between the two of them. This is exactly what I wanted to see. And this is where, at the beginning of this season when they were doing the whole, oh, Penguin loves Riddler and oh, he wants to be with him and all that stuff. This is why I didn't want to see that, because I thought that was going to be how Penguin turns evil again. Oh, he doesn't love him back and he falls for this other woman, and now it's going to be this romance that breaks Penguin's heart, and this is why he is evil again. But in this episode, this is why I wanted Penguin to turn evil. Ed tries to kill him, and so now it's this revenge story, and now they're together in these cages, and you could see, even though they used to be friends, you could see those moments of respect between the two of them. How Ed respects Oswald for what he's done, and respects the fact that he is difficult to kill. Oswald respects the fact that Ed is very smart, but at the same time, they're both trying to undercut each other because they hate each other. Because, Oswald killed the woman that Ed loved, and Ed tried to kill Oswald. And it doesn't matter how Penguin felt before this. Now, because he tried to kill him, that's it. Nobody does that and gets away with it. And so just all the scenes between the two of them, trying to one-up each other. Ed tries to break out, he shoots Penguin with a dart. He falls to the ground, but before he passes out, he grabs his tray and starts banging on it, and so the guards come in to stop Ed from escaping. That stuff is just so much fun. But then ultimately they realize to get out, they have to work together. Their little dialogue in this scene as well is very clever. All right, we have to come up with a deal. So no killing on the premises. Okay, deal. And also a 6-hour window, because if I have to worry about you stabbing me in the neck when we leave, I won't be able to concentrate. Alright, that works. It's just the way they dealt with it was just so much fun. And so ultimately they come up with a very clever escape plan, managed to get out, and then kind of had this last little staring contest, saying, oh, we've got the underworld, Barbara and I control everything, you don't stand a chance. Oh, well, I've got an army of strangest monsters, so even if I didn't have them, you still wouldn't win it. And so it's just this nice little revenge storyline going on in the background. It's not taking center stage. It's not taking anything away from the main plot. It's just something. These two characters are very good characters, and they're handling them very well. I will say the scenes, which is more, I would say, a complaint about the episode as a whole, their scenes were kind of cut pretty short. There were some times where it felt like the scene wasn't really over, and then cut, we got to go to the next one. And that kind of happened in the last episode too. I just think there's so many storylines going on that it does make it difficult to focus one place for more than like 5 minutes at a time. You kind of have to go back and forth to make sure you're not taking anything away from another storyline going on. So I just think that's something that they've done this season as a whole. They're all so many storylines going on with different characters. So I don't really blame this episode. It's something I've kind of got to get used to, all these stories blending together. At least they're all connected around the Court of Owls plotline. I mean, it'd be one thing if this was just completely unrelated, like they're all having their own little battle while Jim and Bruce and Alfred are all going up against the Court of Owls. But the fact of the matter is they were captured by the Court of Owls, and they are kind of up against the Court of Owls as well. So it is still connected. It's just not as connected to the main storyline as the rest of them are. So on to, I guess, the Bruce side of things. We see him still being trained by, I'm assuming, the League of Assassins. They're kind of making it known in this episode that whoever this organization is that has Bruce is actually above the Court of Owls even, to the point where this guy that's training Bruce reveals to him that the Court of Owls has actually gone against his wishes by killing off the Waynes. And so he kind of gets Bruce to see that, and then Bruce ultimately sort of gives, I guess, himself over to this, so that way he can avenge his parents' death by taking out the Court of Owls like this guy wants. I assume there's going to be some sort of appealing to Bruce's humanity at the end of this whole thing, because obviously, we see he doesn't really become this lifeless killer like this guy's talking about. One of the guys with the masks is there. They call them Talons, apparently. So I thought the one guy that was doing all the Court of Owls bidding his name was Talon. Apparently they're all called Talons. But he has him cut off his little finger and shows that he has complete control of this guy and they don't feel anything. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, I guess. But ultimately, it does sort of get undercut by the fact that we know Bruce doesn't become a lifeless killer like this guy wants him to be. But aside, on the other, I guess the fake Bruce side, we see Selina obviously comes in to try to take him out very early on too, so there wasn't like any sort of build up to it. We got most of the build up in the last episode, to be fair. But we see he's in the Wayne Manor. She attacks him. They're fighting. She manages to stab him, but then Alfred comes in, holds her back. Fake Bruce knocks her out and is like, she was just attacking me. I don't know what happened. She's crazy. And Alfred sees that he got stabbed. He's like, you don't feel anything, do you? And so realizes this is the fake Bruce, and then fake Bruce attacks him. They fight. Fake Bruce knocks him out because ultimately what can you do when a guy can't feel any pain? It doesn't matter how many times you hit him, he's not going to feel it. So, yeah, it does make sense that he would ultimately win the fight, especially because he got some training, I assume, to become a better fighter. But yeah, the fact that he can't feel anything is a major advantage. But this leads to Bruce telling Jim about it, and this all ties into the main court storyline because we see Jim obviously being tracked down by Captain Barnes in this episode, and that was kind of the big thing going into this episode, was getting to see Captain Barnes again as this sort of crazed lunatic. And they got this pretty cool looking outfit for him. It does look a little bit goofy, but at the same time, it's kind of a supervillain outfit. They do look sort of goofy in a more grim, realistic show than they would in, say, a 70s cartoon or something like that. So, but yeah, he's got this weird looking outfit. The cool part about it is the axe that he gets to put on his left hand. He just and it's so cool they even have him do it after they had him do it in a previous scene. Like, they're in the courtroom, he puts it on, they cut back, and it's off again so he can put it back on. Like, we realize it's cool, but make sure it doesn't, like, take away from some of the show. Whenever I see him put it on twice, yeah, there's clearly a problem there. But ultimately, he captures Jim for Catherine. Harvey's trying to locate him. And so we go through this whole thing in the courtroom where he's like, I'm your judge, jury, and executioner. And so he judges him to be guilty. And Jim is like, hey, let me die with my badge on. And so he comes over with the badge, puts the badge on him, and he uses that moment to pull one of the things on one of his grenades that he has on his belt. And so he's like, you fool, throws it, and then goes over and cuts his head off. And I'm like, what was all that for? Why was Jim wasting all of that time just to die? It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like he thought somebody was going to be there right in the nick of time to save him, right? Just didn't make any sense. Come on. You could have done it a bit more clever. You could have done something a bit more thoughtful, instead of just Jim's wasting time thinking, I gotta buy as much time as possible, thinking that, how does he know Harvey's on his way? How does he know Harvey's within the vicinity? They found the truck they're supposed to be looking for. How does he know any of that? He's buying time, like he knows Harvey's about to walk in, so sure enough, Harvey throws the bomb away, Harvey shows up just in time and scares off Captain Barnes. I'm like, well, obviously, because Jim's been nothing but buying time. It would have been more interesting if maybe Jim tried to play to Captain Barnes inside of him. I don't know how you would do that. Catherine even said, you trying to play to his humanity, that's not going to work. He said he wanted to kill you. So, I don't know how exactly it would work, but maybe it would buy him enough time to where Harvey does show up in the nick of time, instead of Jim just trying to buy all this time, not even knowing Harvey's waiting for him right outside the door. I don't know. I hate it whenever there's always a Deus Ex Machina that just happens to show up right in the nick of time, which ultimately we do have a lot of in the show, but this was one that just sort of stuck out like a sore thumb because it was so goofy in how they handled it. But anyway, moving on, Captain Barnes escapes, but they managed to pick up Catherine, so Jim and Harvey are back at GCPD when they hear about Catherine being picked up. Funny line from Harvey, how could, thank goodness, finally some good news, and then here comes Alfred saying, oh no, Bruce is missing. It's like, of course he's missing. But ultimately, they find out about this crystal owl that they can use to see a map of Gotham, and I guess a map for the court to see that shows some of their secret hideouts. But Alfred hears about Catherine being in the GCPD, and then ultimately what comes next is probably the best 10 minutes of this show so far this season. We have Alfred goes into the interrogation room. Harvey's freaking out because he's like, no, Catherine's not here, because he realizes Alfred's about to go just crazy on her. So he goes in there and she's like, oh, good cop, bad cop, oh, how tired and cliche. And Alfred's just like, except I'm not a cop. Pulls out a knife, stabs her hand through the table. It's like, I'm a butler. And I'm like, yes! Oh, it was just... Alfred's so awesome in this show. They've done such a good job with him. He's a badass, and that scene was awesome. So, we have them talking to her some more as Captain Barnes walks into the building. He's tearing the place up, throws out some sort of knockout gas, so everybody's knocked out except for him. And so Harvey walks out. He's like, oh crap, and has to walk back in there. He's like, look, Barnes is here. We got to get you guys out of here. So they're all trying to sneak out, but Barnes starts talking to him and starts claiming, hey, this place was a church and you guys ruined it. You turned it into a place of injustice and all blah, 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 spouting out all this jibber jabber. And then he jumps down from the ceiling and starts attacking, knocks everybody around, and then Catherine's like, get me out of here. This is no time for your silly theatrics, or I can't remember what she said, but she says something that set him off. Because he thinks that what he's doing is a noble cause. He's trying to set the GCPD to a place of justice, and ultimately it's still the blood messing with his mind, but hearing her say that what he was doing was just silly and doesn't mean anything just sets him off. So he cuts off her head, and I was like, we have to have some decapitation. I knew we were going to get it somehow. Ultimately, it comes to the form of Catherine. I will say I'm a little bit disappointed that Catherine didn't have more of a point going on in the show. I would have liked to see her get her comeuppance because of this guy that's, training Bruce right now, whoever he is. I would have liked to see her play a bit more of a part, and maybe even become somebody that helps Jim because she realized her time is done because this guy's coming in to take over. But ultimately, they kill her off here. Barnes cuts her head off. And so that's, even though it does kind of take away from her character, it was still a pretty cool scene to see him just go whoosh and then head fall off. And then we get to the point where Barnes is once again threatening Jim while he's on the ground. He's like, time to be executed. And then goes to do his axe chopping thing, and then all of a sudden Jim turns around, shotgun, shoots the axe and his hand off. And I'm just like, oh my god, that was cool too. So yeah, so many cool scenes, and ultimately that's kind of where it ends. Jim stands up, he's like, you're right, this place is a church, but it's my church. Bam! Shotgun to the face, knocks him out. I'm just like, thank you, Gotham. You're an awesome show. So much excitement to end off this episode, and just really, really a lot of fun. It gets me really excited for the next episode. But ultimately, a few other things that do need to be addressed. We see Selena goes to Alfred, talks to Alfred after the whole attack by the fake Bruce, and is talking to him about, how she found out he was a fake and she was trying to stop him. And Alfred's like, we need to go find him. And she's like, I don't want any part of this. And so he kind of calls her out and says, look, he's done everything for you. And just because he didn't tell you about your mother, you're going to sit on the sidelines and not help him? You're just like your mother. I'm just like, yeah. Thank you, Alfred. Thank you for finally saying what needs to be said. Another thing that happens similar to this, Lee goes and visits Jervis in the prison, and he starts talking to her, and it's just like, she wants to know, why did you infect Mario and not me? Jim loved me, so wouldn't that have hurt him more? And he reveals his whole plan. You know, I saw the way you looked at Jim Gordon. You loved him. Nobody deserves to love him. You know, he doesn't deserve that. And so he did that to Mario because he knew it would cause Jim to probably kill him, which would cause her to hate Jim. And he's like, and it worked. I'm like, yes, it did. And he even blames her for it. He's like, you're the one to blame. I'm like, thank you. Like, somebody is finally calling her out on her stupidity. She completely fell for Jervis's whole plan. And she doesn't even realize it. So that gets revealed to her. Unfortunately, instead of being a normal human being and be like, holy crap, I did all of this to Jim and I completely fell for his plan, maybe I should go apologize to him for this. She goes back to the precinct, and as she's walking out after this whole attack, she's spouting more of her, oh, I wouldn't have helped anyway, even if I knew this was going on. You wouldn't have helped innocent policemen who were being attacked by a crazed madman? Hello? But she's still, like, clearly pissed at Jim, but she also throws in a little bit, I have to atone for my sins as well, and so she does realize that she does have some fault in this. However, we get to the end of the scene. We find out that Barnes is broken out of his detention truck or whatever. I don't know. Apparently people still don't know to tie him down with tighter shackles or stronger shackles. You're dealing with a crazed man with super strength. Do something to hold him down. But apparently he breaks out. And also they find out that apparently Tetch's blood is gone. And Jim's like, Lucius and I are the only ones who have the code. No, wait, we're not. And of course it cuts to Lee. She's got the blood. And she injects herself with it. She is the worst character on the show right now. Like, she is the worst. I've talked about my frustration with her. I've talked about how she's just being so unreasonable with everything that happened with Jim. Even though he pretty much saved her life. All of this. And she's still being stupid. She knows it's her fault. She knows that she's the cause of all of this. She's the reason why Mario was infected, because she still had feelings for Jim. She fell for the Hatter's plan the entire time because she ultimately stopped loving Jim and started hating him, and that's what he wanted. And despite all of this, she still blames Jim for everything, gets the blood, and then injects herself with it, probably because she wants Jim to see justice. Like, she sees all the craziness. She sees all the people that are absolutely insane and have lost their mind. And she sees all the people that want to antagonize Jim are crazy. And yet she still wants to antagonize him, making her one of the crazy ones. So, I don't get it. I don't understand why she can't see what's going on, why she's being written as such a poor character, because you think at some point somebody that is as smart as she is, despite the fact that obviously she feels hurt by the fact that Mario's dead, you think she'd still look at this logically and say, okay, clearly there's something else going on here. Clearly Jim is not the full cause of this. Maybe I need to ask questions instead of just blaming him outright and then injecting myself with crazy blood because I want super strength to kill Jim Gordon. So that's about it for this episode. Obviously, I am still excited going forward. There was a lot of awesome scenes in this, and the story overall is still really good. It's just little things like Lee's story, little things like, just some of the, I guess, the jumbling of stories together whenever we should just have a little bit more focus on one. I don't know. Maybe it'll be trimmed down a little bit more. Maybe we'll see a little bit more, I guess, streamlining as the season gets to the end. Maybe some stories will start wrapping up or tying into the main story enough to the point where we won't have 10 stories going on. We'll cut it down to like 5, maybe 3. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this is all going to end. Obviously, I want to see how Bruce manages to overcome this whole, now that he's given himself over to this guy. I want to see how he manages to overcome it. Is Alfred going to get through to him? Is the thought of his parents going to be enough to sort of trump what this guy has done to him? But clearly there's been some brainwashing going on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts in this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Gotham reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.